Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Spyderco Stretch 2 XL. I actually, up until recently, did not know that they did an XL. The last time I looked at the Stretch, I think it was the Stretch 2, was years ago. So yeah, it's also, compared to a lot of other Spyderco knives, like especially full-size Spyderco knives, not nearly as expensive, especially not nearly as expensive as a lot of the flagship USA stuff. This is a pretty cool knife. It's also a pretty basic knife, but I think this is the type of knife that is definitely for a lot of different types of people. Thanks so much to eKnives for loaning this knife to me for review. I don't get to keep it. It's going to go back to eKnives when I'm done. It is available. I will link it down in the description. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's up to you. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. This version, which is the version that I think is probably the best value. This is a Seiki City, Japan knife, by the way. Sal Glesser design. This is in CPM Spy 27, which is very, very similar to S45VN. It's just Spyderco's proprietary version of it. But yeah, the standard version is less expensive. It's like $30. It's like maybe $25 less, and it's in VG10. I'll take Spy 27 over VG10. But isn't Spy 27 based on VG10? Yeah, they took VG10 and then they expanded on it and gave it, different elements and properties. And ultimately what they ended up with was a steel that is very similar to S35VN, or mainly S45VN, and then they called it Spy 27. Anyways, that's what I would, I'd recommend this version. You can get the version you want. Let's go ahead and measure it. It's not small. Overall length of this guy is coming in at 8.85 inches. Yeah, like your average Shurogorov, like your F95. A 4-inch blade with 3.5 inches of cutting edge. Let's do some size comparisons. Any custom skills you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and others. Up against the 8010 in my own Excalibur, you can see here, this is a big knife. I would consider these big knives. Stretch 2 XL a little bit longer. Let's put it up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. You can see the similarities in the blade shape there. This is, it's like the Japanese version of the PM2, but it's bigger and it's a lockback, kind of. I think a lot of people would take issue with the way that I describe that because it's very, very different than the PM2, but it has a similar shape. Let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and the Hogue Deca. It's bigger. Okay, how's the action? Well, it's a lockback, so, we'll have a lot of people who are like, there's nothing wrong with it, all you new, you darn kids with your fidget spinners, you darn 38-year-old kids with your, not every knife has to be fidgety. I would make an argument that knives like, the Para 3 with the compression lock, which, by the way, is not new at all. I would not describe the compression lock as a modern locking system. It's just people get confused because ever since the patent ended with the compression lock, we have all of these companies making new knives with their own version of the compression lock. Anyways, that lock that's not new at all is far more convenient, and I think it's actually stronger. It's easier to manipulate. I would consider it safer just because it is easier to manipulate, but people will have their preferences. This is very easy to manipulate, right? You just wheel it out, and then when you're ready to put it away, you can do a little one-handed thing like that. Use the choil there to stop the blade, then move, then shut it, right? You can do this, which takes a really long time. And yeah, it's fine, right? If you're like me and you don't really like to mess around more, like I want to use exactly one brain cell to open my knife. And I want it to be so easy that I can do it consistently and essentially never have to worry about accidentally cutting myself. I think it's very easy to open, but the back locks or spine locks or whatever you want to call it, that's usually what I end up doing is doing this. And I'm like, all right, it's not falling. I got to wiggle it around. And then I got to move my hand out of the way and then close, right? So yeah, it's not the most satisfying thing in the world. Can you flick it out? Yes, but you need to, because the tension is like right here, you have to overcome that, but still like give it some extra. Because if you just flick it like this, it's just going to stop. There's this big area where there's just a lot of tension. So you really have to like fire it almost like straight up like this. Can you reverse flick it? You can, same thing. It's got to be essentially straight up. Does it feel good? No, not really. It's not very satisfying to deploy, but it is reliable, right? You can do it. You're probably just going to have to give up being fancy with it. Carry profile, thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's actually a little thinner. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. This is bigger than both, but also lighter than both given the material used. It's actually not that much bigger, really, than the Spyderco PM2. It's about the same height. Let's weigh it. What are we looking at for materials? Well, we have this FRN or GFN or GRN or PBS or whatever. It's injection mold plastic of some sort, right? Whatever Spyderco uses. It's fine. It's very, very strong. It's very, very lightweight. Feels cheap compared to G10 or micarta, but not nearly as cheap as the Benchmade Bug Out. The nice thing about this is that it's bigger and it's a little more hefty. I don't think they quite like chop it out as much, and it's backed up by this this little backlock back here. So it doesn't feel frail. It doesn't feel like I can break it. But yeah, you're definitely going to be aware that it's plastic. So we have all steel parts, this stuff, this strong plastic, and then we have Spy 27 for the blade, steel blade. 2.7 ounces is crazy for a 4-inch blade. That is some of the craziest blade length to weight ratio that I have ever experienced on this channel. I mean, it's got to be top 5, perhaps top 3. Pretty insane. You're carrying a lot of blade for what I consider to be ultra lightweight territory. That's anything under 3 ounces. And considering how strong these backlock systems are, I mean, this is a really capable knife, right? I'm not saying like you can use it as a hammer and screw driver or a pry bar. Like, that's dumb. No knife should do that. Use a multi-tool or use the correct individual tool. A knife is a knife. As far as, how this will hold up over time if you use it as a knife, even if you're out doing consistent cutting, for long periods of time, yeah, it's probably going to hold up really well. But anyways, 2.7 ounces, I think that is spectacular. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. So the pivot is a T8. And then all of the other screws on this knife, in the most irritating way, are T6. These little tiny, I'm going to actually check those little tiny ones in the front there. I'm almost certain those are going to be T6 as well. They might even be smaller. Good. Glad they weren't any smaller. So yeah, these should all be T8, but they're not. You can at least take it apart, so I'm happy with that. There's quite a few screws. I don't know why we need so many screws, probably because of the backlock thing, but as long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. You probably really won't need to take it apart. I mean, it's running on washers, but if you want to, you can get in there. Let's measure the blade stock thickness here real quick. I would venture to guess it's like 130 to 140. Something in there. Maybe it's a little less. It looks maybe a little thinner than the PM2. Yeah, it is. It's definitely less. 113 thousandths. Let's get into the meat and potatoes real quick. This is a Spyderco. It is a very Spyderco-y Spyderco. And what comes with that is beautiful ergonomics and a sense of control and lock-in. It is a very purposeful ergonomic outline, right? These knives look ugly to the vast majority of people, and they're still ugly to me. They still look ugly. Some people are like, I like them. That's fine, right? Most people look at them and go, ew. Those people who don't like how they look, a lot of those people, and that including me, change their mind as soon as they have one that they EDC for a bit, because then it kind of dawns on you like, oh, wow. This has a lot of ergonomic room. The pocket clip, it's the Spyderco clip, so you're going to feel it. It's not the worst thing in the world. Choked up feels really good. The lock-in on this thing is just awesome. There's a lot of meaningful traction on this material here. It's just really good. It doesn't feel super high quality because of the material, but you can tell. You pick this up and you're like, this is a tool. I'm holding a cutting tool, and it is going to cut, and it will. Love the jimping, the little thumb ramp here. Love the lock-in. We have Spyderco's typical, just kind of like their whatever. The Seki City Japan satin finish looks the same as the Golden Colorado one. Honestly, the fit and finish between between Japan and Golden Colorado is pretty much the same. Like it feels the same here recently. It says Spyderco CPM Spy 27. Should have really good corrosion resistance, pretty darn good edge retention, reasonable toughness for what it is, and it shouldn't be too difficult to sharpen back up considering it is a super steel for sure. We have a long pointy tip that will be very good for pointing, for poking, right? Don't try to do anything stupid with that tip because it will break 100%. And that doesn't mean, if you're new, that doesn't mean it's bad, right? Your super duper cheapo depot knife that was $10 and still has the tip, been using it as a pry bar, that's a real high quality tool. No, it means that it's a super soft steel and it has insane toughness as simply as a byproduct of being a garbage tinfoil composition. So the tip is still there because it has no other choice. It's not hard. As we increase hardness, right, brittleness usually comes with that. But when you use a knife as intended, as a cutting tool, that hardness comes in handy because then the blade of the knife, which is the part that cuts, stays sharp. And then the tip, which isn't designed to pry or screw, right, it can break if you do that. I don't know why people have such a hard, not everybody, but the vast majority on this channel, the vast majority of people who watch this channel understand that. But it's so funny to me how the common perspective on what it means to have a quality cutting tool is how well your cutting tool survives abuse that is related to anything but cutting. We're like, that's a tough blade there. Look at that. Still holding up even after prying all these bricks apart. I took this knife and I pounded this big rock into a smaller rock. Now that's a quality cutting tool, tell you what. Stupid! People don't like to be told that. I've been going my whole life. I've been going 40 years. This is where I think. I ain't changing it now. Well, you spent 40 years thinking a knife is a hammer. I mean, it's still wrong. It just doesn't make any sense. But you can use your stuff however you want, right? But as far as what a company like Spyderco aims to do with geometry, composition, and HRC, right? It's not make sure that the tips are still holding up after you disassemble a railroad with your knife. That's just dumb. Spyderco does a great job with geometry and heat treat and all of that, and this knife will absolutely cut and cut and cut. It'll be awesome. And seriously, the geometry on this is insane. It's so good. Anyways, I feel like it's been a long time since I've gone on a big rant. I don't know. I guess it depends on how I schedule my content. If I record 2 rants, 2 weeks apart, but then I schedule them back to back, then it seems like I'm ranting all the time. Who knows? Anyways, we have, honestly, the fit and finish all the way around is pretty darn good. I don't really have any complaints. Everything seems to meet up exactly the way that it should. Seating of the hardware is good, right? Just kind of tight and stiff on the pivot just by nature because of the lockback. Pocket clip depth, it's about right here. It's fine. You can do tip up, tip down, left or right-handed carry. It is a completely ambidextrous knife. So left-handed people, you'll have the exact same experience as right-handed people. And because there is no flipper tab here, this is a knife where if you're one of those people who prefers to carry your knife tip down, it's weird to me, but that's fine. You can do that. You can do that safely. Totally fine, right? No blade play up, down, left, or right. No lock stick, no pivot lash, and not smooth. It's just tight. It's because of the lock back, right? That tension right there. Snap into the closed position. Are we centered? Somehow, usually on these like lock back plastic knives, yeah, see, you can like mash it center. So yeah, I'd say we're centered. That's fine. This knife is on eKnives is $145. On Blade HQ, it's $5 more for some reason. I don't know. I bet you'll see slight variation here or there. Is it worth the price? Well, like if you'd have asked me this 5 years ago, I'd have been like $145 for what? But like if you're going to compare it with the Chinese stuff at this price point, most of the stuff you're going to see from China is, at this price point, you're going to see Vosteed and Kaiser. You're going to see American competition with Kershaw, right? So they're definitely, it depends on who you're comparing to, right? I don't know a lot about Japanese manufacturing and the costs associated with it. I know that Spyderco does a great job, whether it's the Italian Spydercos, the Golden Colorado Spydercos, right? The Japanese Spydercos, pretty much everything but the Chinese Spydercos. The Chinese Spydercos suck balls. They are awful. Excuse my language. Hate them. Everything else is pretty awesome. I feel like this is like got a pretty okay price. I'm not upset about it, right? But like 5 years ago, I'd have been like, this knife should be like $100 because it's plastic, right? That's getting a lot harder to do that, definitely. So if you are big into like the handle material stuff, then then obviously like go with a Chinese knife because you're gonna get some of the best. Like you can get titanium knives at $140, $150, from China. Kershaw, like with the USA stuff, I mean, you can get a Bel Air and Magna Cut for right around that price. Is pretty good and made mostly in the United States. It's not going to be nearly as big. If you specifically want that Spyderco look, that Spyderco cutting geometry, and that Spyderco heat treatment, and you're like, I'm trying to buy a tool here. I'm not trying to buy an accessory, like some sort of fashion accessory. Not that every other company competing is only making fashion accessories, right? If you just want the tool and you really want the Spyderco, this is pretty good. I'm not mad about it. I don't like the back lock, right? And I don't like the plastic handles. But as a tool, it functions very, very well. It's really good. I think generally speaking, if you like bigger knives, I think this is pretty recommendable, right? Now, I don't think that you need to rush out and freak out, but I don't think it's like the best Spyderco ever. Far from it. If you're shopping at this territory and you're looking at this knife, I think there's a ton of other knives you should be looking at, right? But I think this is still a good choice. I don't think it's bad. So that's going to be pretty much it. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks again to eKnives. I will return this with the other knives you guys loaned me. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.